Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had so many questions. How do I record an episode? Where do I find background music? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? Where do I find advertisers? The answer to every one of those questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing, and monetizing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and 100% ridiculously easy to use. Let me tell y'all. Everybody keeps asking me, what do I do to podcast? I'm telling you, the answer is Anchor. They created my RSS feed. They gave me my first 2 sponsors that you're now hearing on this podcast. I want you to know that I believe in Anchor. I've grown with this platform since February, and I'm going to continuously grow with this platform. So if you always wanted to start a podcast, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 9th podcast on the Walk by Faith Show. The mission of this podcast is to simply highlight entrepreneurs globally. I want the information that I distribute to reflect minorities that are disrupting their industries to make progressive change within their communities. We know that information is limited based on your zip code, especially in rural areas where survival is the main message. I'm your host, The Pretty Plug, and I inform the uninformed through entrepreneurial journalism. You know, this couldn't be a podcast about walking by faith if we didn't have an entrepreneur that's definitely walking. He's in New York City. He's the founder of Progress Playbook. He left his 9-to-5 with a client who definitely guarantees to pay him for his services and his expertise. He specializes in creating unique learning experiences where you can walk away with the tools and resources you need to start a business. And this entrepreneur is none other than Mr. Lloyd Cambridge. Lloyd, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be with you guys. Thank you for inviting me. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I can't complain. It's been snowing in New York, but that makes a great day to get work done.
I know I got so much done today without a lot of distractions. So I was excited about that too.
Exactly. So, Lloyd, I want to again thank you for being on the show, and the Walk by Faith family also thanks you. So we'll jump right in. Can you tell us about yourself and who you are?
Yeah. So again, my name is Lloyd Cambridge. I am the founder, CEO of Progress Playbook. Progress Playbook is a learning platform that really equips entrepreneurs to design the business that they love, really. So organizations like government agencies and nonprofits hire us to design these customized learning experiences. I came up with the idea. I started the business about three years ago, and I used to work for this government agency called, a program called NYC Business Solutions Center, which is a program under the Department of Small Business Services here in New York City. And I just saw a ton of gaps in the marketplace in terms of how people were being educated when it came to learning how to start and build businesses. So we had this class called the 10 Steps to Start Your Own Business, and we would offer it to everyone. But if you ask 10 different entrepreneurs how they got started, you're going to get 10 different answers. So I really wanted to kind of provide like a unique experience to really teach people how to start and build businesses based on like real stories, based on like cool experiences, based on different types of content, games, etc. So yeah, that's kind of like why we do what we do. But I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Been here all my life, haven't left. And yeah, I'm excited to continue to build the mission of this company, starting here in New York.
Okay. So, Lloyd, from 10 years old, you were definitely growing up in Brooklyn, but you had an idea and you were passionate that you wanted to live a purpose-filled life for not only yourself, but your family and your community. How did you come to that realization so young, and what gave you the inclination that you would not just be a doer, but a dreamer that creates opportunities for everybody?
Awesome. Yeah, so like, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and when I was around 10 years old, I wanted to start my own business. I know it sounds kind of strange to say a 10-year-old wanted to start a business, but I grew up in a single family household, and, at that time I wanted to have the nice sneakers on and, wear nice clothes and things like that. And I didn't have a lot of resources to kind of make a lot of those things happen. I just had this idea, like one day I want to start my own company at 10 years old. Again, I didn't have the support or the resources or I didn't have anybody to kind of hold my hand through that process, although I really, really wanted to start something, and it was kind of born out of this need of wanting to have more, I guess. I didn't have that, but that passion never really left me to want to start something. So at 10, I didn't start, anything, but I still had this passion that kind of just, it stayed with me throughout the duration of my childhood and into my adulthood. I wound up spending, again, my career kind of supporting business owners and entrepreneurs as a banker, as a public servant working for the government here in New York City. And when I think about, and now as a founder of Progress Playbook, when I think about businesses or business owners, I always think back to that 10-year-old boy, and I think back to that person, wanting to like really make sure that anyone from anywhere that wants to start something, they had the support and the resources and the guidance to really be able to make something happen. So my why is really thinking back to that 10-year-old boy who really wanted to do something, but again, didn't have that support or guidance to do so.
Okay, and where did you find the Progress Playbook name? How did you come up with that? And tell us the story about you leaving your 9-to-5.
Yeah. So the Progress Playbook name, I know that I wanted to start a business, the Progress Playbook. I didn't have a name at the time. And I was on my way home from work one day when I was working for NYC Business Solutions Center. And I used to take the train home. So it's this train called the Long Island Railroad. I took it from Queens to Brooklyn. And while I'm waiting for the train, I saw this clock. And this clock had, it was like 60 seconds, obviously, to a minute. And each second kind of visually had like a dot, right? And then it had 60 dots, the clock. And then every time, each second passed, one dot, it would indicate it with a dot. So essentially, again, 60 dots. So I just saw that like progress. To me, it represented progress. When I saw those 60 dots, that was a long way to be getting to that story, but it represented progress, and I thought it would be kind of dope to have a name of a company with progress, because I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, progress never stops. Like, even in business or life, like, you never stop progress. You never stop learning. You never stop, like, trying to grow. All right. So even when you hit one goal, you still want to be able to hit the next goal and get to the next level. And then I was like, so once I came up with the name Progress, I was like, I need another name because I just can't call it Progress. And then I just thought back to my values in terms of like what I was thinking about when I wanted to start the business, which was like making sure that we provided like these various stories about how people started. And I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to have like Playbook be the name of the company, because everybody has like their own individual playbook in terms of how, like, what their journey is like to build a business. So that's kind of how I came up with the name Progress Playbook. So, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a cool story, right?
That's a really great story. In fact, just not many people that probably listen in understand like the New York transportation system. But when you're on the subway, you see a lot of repetitive things. But obviously that clock with the 60 dots was just like, something, this represents something that I would one day utilize. So it takes the smallest things to create beautiful ideas. So we thank that clock. Okay. my next question for you is, what was your steps to leave your 9 to 5? What was that transition like?
Yeah, so, I was one of those guys, who had this passion to want to start a business for a long time. And I used to always talk to my friends all the time, like I'm going to leave my job one day, I'm going to start my own business. I used to always just talk to my friends about starting a business, and I never had, I didn't do anything about it for years. So my friends, I think they got tired of me saying that I was going to start something and just never doing it. So, during this point in my career, I was doing really well. I was promoted to director to manage one of the business solution centers, and then I was promoted again to kind of manage 2 centers. So I lived in Brooklyn, or where I still live now, and I was managing a center in the Bronx and one in Queens. And the Bronx and Queens. And I was just tired. Like, I was stressed out. Like, it took me like an hour and a half to get to the Bronx from Brooklyn. So my commute was really long. And I was just kind of over it at the time. And a friend of mine encouraged me. She was like, it's time for you to quit and like start your own business. You've been talking about it for so long. Like, I think that, God has provided you the opportunity to jump. And I said, you know what? I think you're right. And I, without really, I knew what I wanted to do in terms of Progress Playbook. The original idea was to create online classes. So I didn't have any clients, any customers at the time. I said, I'm just going to leap out and just go out on faith and just put my 2 weeks into my boss. And that's exactly what I did. I put my 2 weeks in. And, she was surprised that I had just got a promotion to kind of manage the Bronx Business Solution Center in addition to the Queens one. And, I gave my 2 weeks in. She was, a little surprised, and she offered me the opportunity to be able to work part-time for 6 months. She offered me the opportunity to work part-time for 6 months, and I kind of went and grabbed that opportunity. But the only reason she offered me that was because I did such a great job at doing what I was doing. So I didn't hate my job that much.
Yeah.
So I wound up taking that opportunity, and that's kind of how I quit.
Okay, so you were balancing starting your online classes as well as just working full time, because right now entrepreneurship is seen as sexy. It's seen as something that people, like, everybody's doing it. Quit your job, just do it, But sometimes there is a part of reality where you still have to eat. You still need a place to stay. So can you kind of tell us the different types of entrepreneurs and the cycles of just talking about it versus being about it? And tell us, like, the realization of what really happens behind the scenes of all this sexy entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship is definitely, it's sexy. I mean, it is sexy to a degree, but there's a lot of, people don't really talk about, like, all of the, hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to make something happen and make it successful. Like, I always say that entrepreneurship is synonymous with transformation. So entrepreneurship, like, literally, it forces you to become a better person. Like, if you want to be a better person, this is how I view entrepreneurship. Like, you should start a business because it forces you to kind of step out of your comfort zone. Like, every single day, like, I have to do that, right? When I don't want to make a call, because I'm afraid of rejection, or I'm afraid of, whatever I'm afraid of in that moment. Like, if I want to be successful, like, I have to get over that fear and do it anyway, right? So that's one of the reasons why I love it. And, like, if I don't want to, let's say if it's building a team, and let's say if you get a person you don't like to be confrontational, right? But you need to be able to build a team to be successful. Like, you have to learn how to deal with that shortcoming or that weakness in order to be successful. So entrepreneurship forces you to deal with a lot of your fears, anxieties, insecurities, weaknesses, in order to kind of really be able to achieve levels of success that you envision. I mean, again, it's a lot of work. I mean, really kind of boils down to being able to get like these paying clients, right? So like cash flow is king. So you have to be able to really like quickly like be able to kind of devise like a plan to be able to get clients. I think what worked in my favor is that like when I quit my job, I had built up a network of relationships of people in my industry, because I was doing my work at the Business Solutions Center for about 5 years. So I had a ton of relationships already, and I was able to leverage those relationships to be able to get business quickly. So even before I quit my job, gave my 2 weeks in, and then like literally like 2 weeks after that, someone reached out to me and said, this organization called the Actors Fund is looking for a consultant to help them to design an entrepreneurship program. Mind you, this guy had no idea that I had just gave my 2 weeks in. He just reached out and said, I think this is an opportunity for you. And I was like, oh, awesome. This is cool. Like I'm definitely interested. So I reached out and I wound up closing that deal, literally 2 weeks after I gave my notice in. But the reason I was able to do that is because I had already built an audience. I had built relationships. So I wouldn't just say it's good to jump, but if you want to be sustainable, it's about having clients, having customers, having users. And the way to do that is really building an audience before you quit your job, building an audience before, and that takes time. Like it took me literally 4.5 years to build an audience, before I quit.
So really what you're saying is what nobody wants to talk about is it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to wake up with thousands of clients tomorrow when you exactly quit your job. But when things are supposed to happen, they will happen. Just like your 2 weeks notice came in and you booked a client. And I'm pretty sure from there it hasn't stopped. And I think that's really what you're saying, right, Lloyd?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, you got to go out there, build an audience. It doesn't happen overnight. It took me 4.5 years to build an audience. I'm still building it to this day. I wouldn't, for me, and it depends on your business. Like I got caught up for a while, like over the last couple of months, I would say, with like social media. Like I built my audience. I mean, the first 6 months, I got 6 clients in the first 6 months of my business, and I did all of that without social media, right? It was all based off of people that knew me because they worked with me in the past in some capacity, right? It was all based off of these relationships that I had. And over the last 6 months, like I've been like really focused on social media, and I kind of got away from focusing on making the calls and having these meetings. And there was a point where I said, oh, I'm not generating as much new business as I would like to because I was focusing all of my time on social media. So I think having priorities, social media is great, but it doesn't always translate into actual sales. So you have to like really be able to look at your activities that you're doing when you have a business, because there's so much to do, and you have to really be able to sit down with yourself and say, all right, what are my goals and what are the primary activities that's going to lead to cash flow, right? And is it social media? Is it picking up the phone? Is it going to networking events? Is it newsletters? Is it email? Like, what's the thing for you? Like, making sure you get those things done, because you can get caught up in like trying to do 1,000 things and not convert into those things. May not be converting into clients.
Okay, that makes so much sense, Lloyd. And I just want you to know, like, I took a really good look at your website and just about who you are and your process. And I feel like you really did a great play-by-play on the process you took leaving your job all the way to now. You have a personal assistant that you have that helps you keep everything in line. Do you want to like highlight some of those things about your process that it took, and maybe give the audience some nuggets about just Progress Playbook and your play-by-play? Like, what is your playbook, Lloyd? I think that's what I'm asking. Like, what is your playbook?
My playbook, yeah. So I can just tell you my steps, and that's kind of like what we've been working on a project, kind of outlining the steps of entrepreneurs in New York City, and just kind of outlining step by step exactly what they did to launch and to be successful. So for me, my first step was, again, like building an audience. It took me 4.5 years of building an audience, right? So that was me going to networking events. I have 2 meetup groups right now. So meetup.com is a platform where you can essentially create these groups around different topics. And I think right now we have about 10,000 people in those groups, between both groups. So I used to host events for free. I used to just do it just to build community. I would send out emails. These are things I'm still doing today. I would give other speakers an opportunity to be able to speak in front of, this kind of audience that I was able to build over a few years. So I did. That was my first step. And then I created like a mini business plan. Like once I came up with the idea for Progress Playbook, I'm a planner. When we interviewed some of the other business owners, some people created business plans, others didn't, but that was something that I did. And, as soon as I launched my business, I literally pivoted or deviated a little bit from my original plan because I followed the customers that were paying me. So originally I wanted to do these online classes, but that would have just took a longer time for me to be able to generate income, whereas I was able to quickly get a customer, like an organization who wanted to hire me to kind of design entrepreneurship programs for the people that they serve. So I just followed the money essentially and kind of continue to go after organizations. But my second step was creating a business plan. After that, I believe I began to build my brand assets. So I went on Squarespace, got a website, and created my own website. I got a professional email. I used Google business. So essentially I pay $5 a month so I can have a professional email. It's Lloyd at progressplaybook.com and not Lloyd Cambridge at gmail.com. Some people will use Gmail for their business email versus the name of their business at the name of their business.com. So did that. Then we went on to after we created all of our brand assets, I quit my job. Right, it was that time for me to quit my job. I landed my first client after that, like I said, and then I was on a mission. I said I created a very clear goal. I said in 6 months I want to have 6 clients. That's exactly what I did, and the way that I did that was every day I was sending out about 5 to 10 emails, letting people know exactly what I was up to. I said, well, this is what I'm doing now. I would love to go out for coffee and have a drink, or and just talk about what I'm doing. And because I had those meetings, I was able to close 6 clients in 6 months. So we work with the Actors Fund. We help them to design an entrepreneurship program for actors. That's now a national program. We work with the Brooklyn Children's Museum. We designed a youth entrepreneurship program for teenagers in Brooklyn and helping them to launch their own businesses. We also created a project for a curriculum for bodegas across New York City or corner stores to help them to better manage their inventory, to upgrade their stores. As neighborhoods are changing, we created a documentary that talks about how businesses in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, can adjust to changes that are happening because of gentrification. We got funding to do all of these projects through organizations. And, it all came as a result of just setting up meetings. But again, that really stemmed all the way back from years ago of really being able to build an audience over the last 4.5 years. So those are just some of the steps. I think I may have missed one or two, but those are just some of the steps that we took to kind of get where we are now.
Okay, and all of that is so impressive. One, just hearing how you started out in Brooklyn to now having national programs that just really give people the tools they need to be successful. Because a lot of times you could be that entrepreneur that's just doing in the information gathering stage, or you're the person that's actually executing, or you're just the person that's saying that they are, but they're not doing anything. So, Lloyd, do you want to piggyback on that, on what are the different types of entrepreneurs and how do you go from that wannabe to that actually I am stage?
Yeah, because I was that guy for a very long time. Like I said, like I was a guy that was a planner. I would overanalyze an idea. I would, start a project but never put it out to the public because I was afraid of that it wasn't good enough, or I was afraid that it wouldn't be right or people wouldn't like it. I was, I was that guy, and I remember spending so many hours like on the weekends just planning, and like I would sacrifice so much time before I even started this business, like just planning different types of business ideas and never launching anything because I was just afraid, and you just kill so much time. You kill, you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that guy, right? So, I would encourage you, if you have an idea, the best thing that you can do is really to be a person of action. You don't want to be the person that just collects information, analyze. I do believe that I do believe in timing, but even once you start, what I've learned is that you're still going to mess up. Like all the things I was afraid of, we have success, but we also have a lot of things that we messed up on, and that's okay. What I'm learning now is that when you launch, the whole thing is like you really just want to learn as quickly as possible. And the best way to learn as quickly as possible is to test as quickly as possible, all right? So you have to like literally get your product or your service out there into the marketplace and see how people respond to it so that you can begin to make adjustments. Because I was a guy, like I said before, I wanted the product to be perfect before I launched it into the world. And even if it is perfect when you launch it, it doesn't mean people are going to buy it. Like you have the prettiest website, you could have the best content, but it still may not necessarily align or fit with what the customer wants. So the best thing you can do is find like a low cost way to test your idea before you begin to like invest everything into it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would say just, do that. What are some low cost ways to test your concept?
Okay, so that's a nugget, guys. Testing, beta testing, pushing it out, even though you may not think it's ready, just to see what your audience would like and what some of your price points could potentially be.
Yep.
So, again, all great points, Lloyd. My next question is, how can teens get started with entrepreneurship? I know you have some plays on that.
Oh, yeah. So we are working with the Brooklyn Children's Museum right now. We just started a program this week. They're going through a 12-week entrepreneurship program. These are like high school and college students. And they're going through a 12-week entrepreneurship program, and they're going to be launching a pop-up shop, which is going to take place on a rooftop of the Brooklyn Children's Museum on June 30th, 2018 here in Brooklyn. And, we're teaching them all about how to start a business, but, some general tips. I would say, and I've been talking about it, kind of throughout this conversation, but, one, I would say first, really identify what your core values are before you launch a product or a service. So your core values are, what are the things, I want you to give me 3 to 5 words that you want your company or your product to really stand for, right? Everybody should have that, because that is, and what your mission is and what your vision is. So those are the 3 things that I would say start with. What's your mission? What's your vision? What are your values? Because it's from those 3 things that you begin to, those are the building blocks for your company, right? So you look through everything that you do, you look through the lens of those 3 things: mission, vision, and values. Am I always on point or in line with those 3 things, right? So one of our values is celebration, right? So we want to celebrate, every time you make progress, we want to celebrate the fact that we've made progress. So how does that show up in your company, right? That should show up in social media. So we'll do a post every Friday about we made so much progress. This is how we're going to celebrate. That should show up. That should show up when you working with your clients. So if my clients, if they make a big stride, how are we celebrating that? So your values are like it's kind of like the heart of your organization. So I would definitely start there. Build your audience as quickly as possible. Like I said, business is all about learning fast. The learning starts with first having what we call a hypothesis. So like, what's your guess? Like, I'm guessing that if I launch this product that people are going to love it and this is why. And then coming up with a low cost test to be able to see if people respond the way that you've envisioned them to respond. And if they do, continue to iterate and move it forward. If they don't, you have to ask yourself the question, why? Is it pricing? Is it how you packaged it? Is it the time of year? Like, what are the reasons why people aren't responding the way that you may have wanted them to respond? And then from there, you have to make a decision. Should you continue to move this thing forward, or maybe, go in a different direction? So many tips. One thing, I read this book called Delivering Happiness, written by Tony Hsieh. He started Zappos. How he tested his idea, his hypothesis was like, he wasn't sure if people were willing to buy shoes online or not. Like, this is like in the 90s where, before the internet like really blew up. But he wasn't sure if people were willing to buy like sneakers online. So what he did was he created like this dummy website, and he would essentially, he would go down to his local shoe store, take pictures of shoes, take those pictures, put it onto his website, and then if somebody purchased, he would market the website. If somebody purchased the shoe, then he would go down to his local shoe store, buy the shoe, and then send it to them. But he just wanted to prove the point that people were actually willing to buy shoes online. Before
Wow.
he invested all of his time, energy, and money into like, let me go build this nice, pretty website and buy, a whole bunch of shoes, and then try to market it, So he just did like a low cost test. So we got to do the same thing.
Okay. And what was your most favorite event that you put on with Progress Playbook? I know you probably have stated it, but just give us high level. What was your favorite event?
My favorite event that we've done, I'm gonna have to go back to the Brooklyn Children Museum, man. We do an annual pop-up shop with other like youth entrepreneurs throughout New York City. So we have like 60 young people who have products and services, everything from like, food products to art to music to clothes to the fashion that are selling their stuff to the community. And it's a beautiful thing to see, like, teenage and college students, participating at an early age, being business owners. That was really dope.
Okay. So we do know that you have had a background in raising capital or really supporting businesses financially. So how can businesses get the most out of their local and state funding?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, well, one, I would say it's important if you want to get access to funding that you know how much money you need and the purpose of it. So, like, some people used to come to me and say, I need $50,000. I'm like, well, what do you need it for? They said marketing. I'm like, what specifically? They can't really break down exactly what they need the money for. So I would say create a budget, like really create like an itemized budget listing exactly, how much you need and what you need the money specifically for. And then once you come up with that number, there's 1,000 ways to, not 1,000, but there's a lot of different ways to be able to fund your project or your business. In terms of like government, so typically, I'm going to start on the loan side. The government, most states, they have these things called CDFIs. They stand for Community Development Financial Institutions. Excuse me. So they have these programs where these nonprofits, they're nonprofits that lend money to businesses and entrepreneurs who are not necessarily bankable. So a company that's not bankable typically is like you haven't been in business for at least 2 years. Maybe your credit score may not necessarily be the best. So these organizations exist to help you to get access to financing. So check out like your local CDFIs, definitely, like some in New York, or like one is called Action, ACCION. Another one that's really popular here is Business Outreach Center. There's another one called BCNA, which stands for Business Center for New Americans. So there's probably about 24 that I can think of here in New York. We can get access to capital, like lending capital, to be able to help you to start and expand your businesses. So you have those for people that are not bankable. You can also touch base with your SBDC, Small Business Development Centers. That's a federal program. Every state has a couple of those, and they can help you to identify typically like lenders that can help you to finance your business. Most states also have like grant programs as well. So we have if you're in New York City, we have an email that we send out every week that highlights grant opportunities from various organizations. So sometimes, it could be as simple as, I'm trying to think, like the Knicks and the Squarespace, they came out with a grant to help businesses a couple of weeks ago, right? So you have to kind of be in a market to like kind of know like what grants are available for small business owners. Who else came out with something recently? In New York, each of the libraries every year they have like a $10,000 grant that they give out to businesses once a year, but it's a competition. In Brooklyn, there's an organization called Downtown Brooklyn Partnership. Every month they give out $5,000. So you have a lot of these organizations that have these like business plans, startup kind of like competitions. You just have to just know how to access them. One thing you can do is like search on Twitter, to kind of find out these opportunities. You can also do like a Google alert. If you set up a Google alert, and they'll send you an email every day or every week, however you want to set it up. If you put those keywords in, like grant opportunities in your state or your city, they'll send you kind of articles that speak to those keywords. So those are there's two ways that you can find out about like grant opportunities in your state, in your city, or even nationally. So FedEx right now has a grant opportunity that's available for anyone nationally. Eileen Fisher, if you are a female founder and you want to, like, she gives out $100,000 every year to female founders. Tory Burch has a program for female founders as well, which she gives out, like, I think $50,000 for women businesses. So there's so many programs. I can go on and on that exist for different groups. There's another organization called Defy Ventures here in New York. I think they're actually national, but I think they're based in New York. But essentially, it's, for folks that have been formerly incarcerated, they also, and they help them to start businesses. They also have like a grant program as well. So connect with like an SBDC, like I said, and they may be able to provide you and be able to connect you in the right places, but also definitely do like the Twitter searches and also do the Google alerts to find out opportunities in your space.
Okay. See, Lloyd, you have such a wealth of knowledge. You're just dropping gems.
Yeah.
So I'll have a few more questions. What's your next project that you're working on?
My next project, so we are doing this really cool project that I love. We are doing, it's going to launch this year, in the fall of 2018. We interviewed 10 entrepreneurs that started their businesses in New York City. And we got their step-by-step stories on video about how they started and how they built their businesses. So we interviewed the founders of like Afropunk, of Baked by Melissa. She makes cupcakes here. She has like 13 stores in New York, 300 employees. We interviewed the founder of Tough Mudder. It's an obstacle course race. It's like a global company. We interviewed him and got his, but they all started in New York. We also interviewed this guy. His name is the name of his company is called Conbody. He has a prison-style workout gym where he only hires ex-cons to be the personal instructors or the fitness instructors at his gyms. He currently has a gym in like side of Saks Fifth Avenue. He has 3 gyms in New York. So we interviewed him as well, and we interviewed a bodega owner in the Bronx. I can go on and on in terms of people that we interviewed, but essentially we got their step-by-step stories in terms of how they started. And what we're doing is we're building a course around their stories, right? So what we learned is that everyone has a different steps in terms of how they got started. And, because they all came from like different circumstances. Some people went to Harvard. Some other folks started, from jail. Other folks started right out of college. And everyone had access to different resources, and they all did it in a different way, but they all made their dream come true. So we tell their stories. We're building an online course, a workbook around their stories, and we'll be teaching their how to build a business based on their stories throughout New York City, starting in the fall. So we're really excited about that.
I think that's dope, especially the one about the ex-cons. I bet all of them are really, really fit.
Such a dope story. Oh my God.
Really fast.
Yes, you gotta look him up, Con Body. It's an amazing story, man. It's so great.
Okay. So, Lloyd, what can we expect to see you in the next 10 years? Tell us some of your goals.
10 years. 10 years, I want to, I want to be in 30 cities. That's my goal. My goal is 30 cities in the next 10 years. So right now, we're based in New York, but I want to be able to build out these programs, these online courses, and I want to do that in 30 cities globally. I'm not sure. I have a couple of ideas in terms of what cities, but 30 cities. I want to start in the next 10 years a fund where we're essentially investing into businesses that we believe are, have the potential for growth, and that we believe in. Over the next 10 years, we're also going to be starting a production company so I told you I created a documentary, but I want to do more storytelling and begin to change the narrative as it relates to around economic development and how certain neighborhoods are seen. Really going into neighborhoods and telling the stories of, entrepreneurs in those neighborhoods, of, business owners. And, so we want to be able to do that as well. So those are three things that we're passionate about over the next 10 years is building, taking Progress Playbook to 30 cities, building a fund, and building a production company where we are telling stories through documentaries and other creative projects.
Okay. And I think that's also great. I can just put in a little plug for Pine Bluff, Arkansas. That's where I'm from. I think they would do something. They would do something really great with the Progress Playbook, like camp, a boot camp, where you just go in and teach people just how to get started. So I'm just gonna put a small plug in for my city. That's where I'm from.
We love Arkansas. Why not?
Okay. And Lloyd, my last question for you: what does walking by faith mean to you?
Walking by faith, to me, is not having all the answers. It's not having all the answers and that being okay. Well, I'm a Christian as well, but for me, it's I'm just trying to get the words right here, but it is kind of reaching toward the values of God. As you are kind of walking toward the destiny that he has for you. If that makes sense. So I think the way that we get to our promised land is through having having the right character, right? So to get there, it requires courage. To get there, it requires persistence and patience. And I know all that sounds like cliche and maybe boring, but it's true. It requires passion. And that's why I always say that entrepreneurship is synonymous with transformation. So I think that walking by faith is pursuing those things, even when you don't always get it right or even when you don't have all the answers or know how it's going to work out, but knowing that if you continue to pursue those characteristics, that you will reach the promised land, whatever your promised land is.
Okay. So I always end the podcast just highlighting one or two scriptures. The first scripture is Proverbs 3:5-6, which just says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean in your own understanding. To all your ways acknowledge him, and he will straighten your path or direct your path. It just simply means, hey guys, you got to keep going no matter if the road is hard, no matter if it's easy, if things are aligning the way you like. It's all going to work out in the very end. And the last scripture is Jeremiah 29:11, which is, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. So that simply means that right now, whatever you're going through is not the end, because it's the plan that will always prosper you, and it's not to harm you. It's only to make you better. All your struggles is just to make you better. And it's for you to continue to learn, for you to continue to move forward in whatever direction that you're supposed to go in. And it's always just to have a better hope in the future. You can't wake up tomorrow and have just zero hope and, not have a plan for your future. I mean, some people go through that, but they may not be the happiest. But I think it's always great when you have something to look forward to. And I think with Progress Playbook, it plays right into that. One, just having the playbook of how you want your business, how you want to obtain your goals, and each and every day, just progressing each and every day, looking to see what can we achieve next while being appreciative and celebrating those small victories or those large victories that happen daily. So, Lloyd, I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I heard about you from my friend. His name is Kwaku. He's also a fellow entrepreneur. He works with me. And he said, Jazz, you got to link up with you. You got to link up with him. So I found you on Instagram. I DM'd you, and you were so nice and kind. So, guys, you guys should definitely hit him up on his social medias. Lloyd, you want to put a plug in for your pages?
Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook as Progress Playbook. On Twitter, it is Progress PB, P as in Paul, B as in boy. You can also follow me personally. It's just Lloyd Cambridge, either on Instagram or Facebook. Look forward to connecting with you guys and, building and growing with you.
Okay. So, guys, this is it. Thank you to the Walk by Faith family, and tune in next week.